Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Gundam Podcast, where we're gonna have a special guest today, Aaron Gogarty, my
Whoa,
good
yeah,
friend from like first grade, who got
yep.
me into Gundam originally. So you have him to thank for all of my atrociously crazy Gundam knowledge. So
And he's gone the extra mile with it. He's the student has become the master. It's a whole thing.
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say master, but my knowledge is definitely a little bit embarrassing to admit. I also have my wife here as always. She's
Hello.
chilling on the
Hello,
floor,
Sonny.
so so you might be able to hear her voice every once in a while. But this is actually going to be a super quick podcast that will probably have a lot of ramblings because
Yeah.
today we're going to be talking about Gundam and YouTube. So we have other members who are not able to come on today because of holiday festivities. Regardless of COVID kind of going on, we still need to do our own rituals and traditions for Christmas and for the holidays. And so I hope everybody's super safe. Uh, everybody's being healthy. Everybody's being smart about this stuff. We're almost done. The vaccines are on their way. So, we can all get through this together. But Aaron, as far as I know, is not as experienced with a lot of the YouTubing that Gundam has to offer.
No, I'm not.
So
I'm my YouTuber experience. My subscriptions are mostly in the generalized anime and gaming sphere. Um, Mother's Basement, Super Eye Patch Wolf,
right,
Beyond the Bot. Stuff like that. Some more niche stuff. Well, a lot of movie stuff too. But with Gundam, I really uh, this and the Gundam info page are pretty much as far as my only dedicated Gundam subscribe pages I can think of.
right. Sunny, you actually had something to point out?
So, what are you talking about? Are you talking about English reviewers, Japanese reviewers, Korean reviewers, anime reviewers? There's also movies, Gundam shows and movies you can find online. There's also different technique videos. There's so much. What are you talking about?
That is a great question. Actually, I want to cover all of them. So,
Ambitious.
yes, I am being a little bit ambitious, but just so we don't overwhelm everybody, and because it's a YouTube thing, I'm actually going to provide this giant list of everything that I have subscribed to on the description page of this video. So if you don't want to hear us talk, you can actually just check everything down below. But for Aaron's convenience, we're just gonna talk about it right now because
Good,
there's a
yeah.
lot of stuff that I think would be really super handy.
I'd
So
like to learn because it's my Friday ritual is I work from home like a lot of people are right now. Um, so my Friday ritual is essentially just I clock out and from then until I go to bed, I'm catch up on my YouTubers. They normally uh, upload Tuesdays, Fridays. That's kind of like the generalized we off camera. We spoke about Wisecrack earlier.
right, yeah.
So they're kind of like my go-tos. Don't think they've ever spoken about Gundam. They do touch on anime sometimes, but they don't ever. I
Yeah,
don't
what
think they've
was
touched on that
their,
that much. They have a good video about Ava, but they really need to dip
yes.
into Gundam because Gundam has a lot to offer politically, philosophically. They should really jump on that.
Yeah, I'm hoping that they eventually do that too. Um, but we're gonna go ahead and jump into this now. So um, actually the first on the list. So we're going to talk about reviewers actually. So
Nice.
there is a community of YouTubers who only review Gundam model kits. And I think the very first one that I ever encountered was Robert 184. And Robert 184 had the classic 10-minute breakdown videos where he would do an unboxing, parts review, full mobile suit review, maybe a transformation, and then final thoughts. So you essentially had this breakdown for pretty much almost every Gundam back from like 1999 or actually, you know what, maybe like 2004. 2004 up into like 2011, he did reviews like nonstop. The next person it would be Prime 92, and Prime 92 is notorious for being, uh, low budget reviews that she cranks out every week. She's a Canadian person, and I think Robert and 184 is also from Canada too.
Oh, nice.
But she has this giant catalog of just official Gundam products, third-party Gundam products, Transformers stuff, obviously with her name, Prime 92, right?
That's cool. I like to see I like to see the intersection between the Gundam fan bases and Transformers and
Yeah, so she has a pretty massive collection. I think it's insane to look at her room tours, is just see like how many Gundam products she just has in her room, and she continues to buy and review Gundam products all the time. So I actually had watched all of her reviews and all of Robert 184's reviews back before the big Gundam boom that kind of happened like 2012, 2014. And so by the time that I had already established a club, I basically had watched nearly every model kit review of every product that had come out from like 1984 to like present day. And I had like the whole like what you call it, the yeah, we gotta move the thing for privacy. We had the whole yeah, it was crazy. I had the whole like Back to the Future thing where you're watching like 6 things at the same time on the screen. It was insane.
See, I'm right to say that you've become the master. I strolled into school one day and said, "You guys gotta watch Gundam Wing," and then here we are now on your podcast, and you're, this is literally the only Gunpla I own. There we go.
Hey man, I think that's a start. It's a great kit too. So and you can probably actually find reviews on that kit on these channels.
This one I gotta shout out. I tried to get him on tonight, honestly. Kevin Basto got me that for my birthday at Anime Expo 2 years ago. I haven't built it just because I have a weird superstition that I would devalue it somehow, the sentimental value. It'd be weird, but I think he would be more stoked if I built it. So I will get to that point. I've got Steven here to point me in the right direction. I will do my best to amass model kits as I can, but money's tight. We're in a pandemic, so do what we can.
But yeah, so we have a couple other people. There's the Crow-sama, who's actually on our channel at one point. He was a part of our group for a little bit, and he has a great content that's out there. He's a really nice guy. He loves Gundam Age for good reasons. He's a family man. He likes his family Gunpla. He likes his family Gundam. So check out his channel if you get the chance. And now we're going to kind of get into some of the more high profile people, so to speak. We kind of broke through the Crow-sama deal.
The influencers, so to speak.
Yeah, so you probably heard of Kakarot 197. He is a guy from Germany who loves his Gundam Seed. He loves his grunt suits and UCs. He's done a lot of model kits review in the past, but he can read Japanese. So he's actually done a lot of segments where he reviews things like manga. He does like lore videos specifically for the UC, and he also does like development histories on certain mobile suits. So things like the Jim, the Zaku, the Jin, not the Jim, or like the Strike Daggers from Gundam Seed.
Cool.
And we have Mecha Gaikotsu. He's this guy from Ireland who actually lived in Japan for a little while, and then he loved all the stuff over there. He built lots of master grades. He kind of has like this, for better or for worse, kind of like an ADHD kind of style of filming. So it's very entertainment oriented. It's very like you just want to snap things together and just exactly. Yeah. But it's pretty entertaining to watch. His style is not quite what I like all the time, but I've been so accustomed to it. That's a familiar voice, and sometimes I'll just play it in the background as I fall asleep. So Zacharelius is the next guy that you'll probably see a lot of stuff. He's a very fantastic modeler, and I think he focuses more on the modeling side of anime. So he's been interviewed before by one of our good friends, Xavier Lim, who is a representative of Bluefin and Bandai. And so
Okay.
he's actually a fantastic guy. He has an interesting, Zacharelius has a fantastic angle because I think he's actually an English teacher in South Korea.
Oh wow.
He has a family there,
Cool.
and so he can see the kind of South Korean angle of like an English speaker from South Korea angle, so that we can kind of get a better look at how things are done there. But he's also a fantastic modeler, and he's also sponsored by USA Gundam Store, I believe.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, there's a whole international Gunpla community that I'm just woefully ignorant to as well. So
Yeah, no, I mean,
really
this is all
cool.
great. And these are all like reviewers. So on the off chance that you are interested in a kit that you have very little idea of, you can go ahead and jump onto one of their channels because they will actively buy the newest kits and they'll review them. They'll talk about if people don't know what an anime or a model kit review or a figure review kind of consists of, they take a look at the box, they look at construction, they take a look at nub marks, they take a look at articulation, weapons, cost analysis, and then they'll compare it usually to existing kits for height, for like a stage presence, pretty much. So like shelf presence, I think that's what they actually call it. But then we have some of the kind of weirdly lesser known Gundam reviewers, you kind of, or like the niche ones, Charlie 426, Citrus. There is also Type V3 that used to put on a lot of good stuff as well. Gundam Flexing, and recently she has started to make a lot of heads turn. Gunpla Melly.
Gunpla Melly.
Yeah, Gunpla Melly. She's made a lot of heads turn for she's got a great personality. Let's put it that way.
That's
And but she does have a pretty significant collection with Gunpla, and I trust in her knowledge. I just really can't stand the comment section and how many people just kind of engage into her content because of the superficialness of her. But I believe that she does have solid content if you want to check that kind of stuff out.
okay. Now I'm I'm intrigued as to what exactly is going on with this channel. I'll be sure to check it out.
Go ahead. But she does take advantage of the YouTube algorithm really well, and so that's why her channel has exploded. It still has not consistently hit my recommendations, but that's because I tuned my YouTube algorithm to more foreign tastes. So those were all reviewers, and say you want to kind of get to the next level, right, so to speak. So there's actually a group of people that I would categorize as like Gundam people, not reviewers, but modelers. And Zacharelius kind of fits very close into that segment. And these videos are more styled for the building process. So like what kind of nippers do you use? How do you clean up nub marks? How do you get rid of seam lines? How do you do things like different primers and paints and mixing and and stuff like that.
So we're getting into the the
We're dipping our toes, right? We're dipping our toes a little bit. And so we have a great list here from Gundam Planet. They are a company that actually sells Gundam model kits, but they also have some videos that are up. They're actually located in New Jersey, and I got to visit their warehouse when I was over on the East Coast, and they are a phenomenal group of people. Ray Studio, I think, I can't remember if it was Ray Studio or EA Gunpla, which also is, another channel that I watch a lot. But they actually developed their own paints specifically for Gunpla. And if you're not familiar with these channels, what they do is they kind of go through that process, but they do it in a very cinematic styled way. So I think at some point, Aaron, you should check this out because it looks so nice. It's basically ASMR Gunpla.
Yeah, I'm very open for that. It sounds great.
Yeah, so they do it very cinematically, 1080p camera work, very good direction and lighting. Editing is like top notch, great stuff. And then they're building stuff that you would probably know. So it can give you a
Yeah,
little bit of inspiration on what kits you're going to be building.
cool.
Studio G is also a really great YouTuber for that kind of stuff too. But sorry, I cut you off really quick.
Oh no, I was just gonna say it's really cool to hear there's people that make paint specifically for Gunpla. Like that's
Yeah.
it's just cool to know. Sorry, I apologize in advance. I've had a week. I'm very tired.
No, no, no,
So
it's okay.
if I ever look a little kind of like I'm not bored. I'm just
No, no, no. It's all good, man. It's definitely kind of late. It's getting there.
yeah.
Um,
It's
but
just
yeah, so finishing off the list, we have Frosted Snow. I believe she or her husband, I don't really know exactly, but they speak both Korean and Chinese. I'm not exactly sure where they live, but they also speak English as well. And she is a very good modeler, and her husband is as well. So they do some really exclusive content with going to like the Gundam expos, and also, sometimes she will show some tutorials, and then she'll also film her husband as he paints. So they're a very good husband and wife duo that I admire a lot. Dr. Garuda uh, does not specifically Gundam stuff, but he does clay sculptures that I think are just phenomenal, and it can give you a little bit of inspiration. So you probably see,
heard the name of the channel. I've heard the name.
yeah.
Don't know
So
where I heard it, but I've heard it.
they have great stuff. So I mean, they do a lot of Dragon Ball figures.
Oh,
And
nice. So
what's kind of interesting is that Bandai also owns the rights for Dragon Ball production, distribution, and merchandise. So the figurized Dragon Ball model kits are also top notch. So there is another group of YouTubers who do specifically Dragon Ball model kits.
yeah, I've got my pretty good Goku. Like here, you can't really see him.
Oh yeah, yeah, no, I can see them right there.
Yeah, but I also had I had the figure at one point. I sold it, but somebody the figure that came with fighters that had the cell shaded paint. I had that for a while, but I sold it. Just don't need eventually you move past certain things.
It's okay, man. You can get them later.
Yeah, it's like you could find it on eBay for like $20.
Right. But yeah, so I'd say that those are like kind of the bigger group of modeling people that you can go ahead and dive in. There's also some people who are that have Japanese names and Japanese titles, but I'm including them in the description as well.
Okay.
And then unfortunately, we're gonna get to the section of foreign Gunpla, and it's not unfortunate because they're bad. It's unfortunate because I can't pronounce any of these people's names because they're all in Japanese. But the big Korean one, so it's this guy from Korea. He speaks only in Korean, but if you watch enough Gundam review stuff, you kind of know what you're looking for. What's great is at the end of the video, he actually does a breakdown.
Oh, nice.
He gives everything a rating of 1 out of 10 for looks, articulation, weapons, that kind of stuff. It's universal in stuff. Korean, but you can kind of guess what he's.
Yeah, I mean, if you see the presentation, like you can hear the Korean, but see what he's focusing on, and get a numerical rating on it. You kind of piece it together.
Right. Yeah. To be fair, I cheat a lot. I actually ask Sunny to translate a lot of stuff for me. Sometimes I'll shake her awake at night, and I'll be like, Sunny, this is really important.
Oh God.
What did I say?
Sorry, Sunny.
Yeah, sorry, Sunny. But yeah. But there's another Gundam reviewer that I think is really good, because he actually lives in Japan, and he's a Japanese reviewer. He gets the kits basically as soon as they come out in Japan.
Oh, nice.
Like, to give you a perspective, when a Gundam reviewer here in the States, or like Mecha Gaigotu or Zacharelius review it, this guy usually reviews it 2 weeks prior to them releasing the video.
May I add a noob question to this?
Sure. Yeah. What's that?
What is the average turnover between Gunpla release in Japan versus the West?
I would say the average turnover might like the elapsed time
Yeah.
is probably, if we're really good, right? Like, so the quickest that I can probably get something or get the product in COVID times might be a month or two.
Okay, so wait, let's pretend this whole pandemic is not happening. Let's go to the before times.
Probably like a month.
Oh, that's not
Assuming,
bad.
assuming shipping and everything kind of works out okay, a month. But in
Okay.
internet time, um, that's a really long time, right?
Are they? But also, I mean, do they localize a lot of models too? So like the instructions are in English and so on and so forth, or
So localization of model kits haven't really come around probably for like the last 5 years. Like
okay,
5 years
that's what I
ago,
figured.
that's when they started adding more English into their instructions. And actually,
Okay.
if you look at the new entry grade RX-78 2 model kit, the really cheap $7 one that everyone's kind of going crazy about right now, that one actually has a majority of its instructions in English.
Oh,
Some
cool.
of the new HGUCs or like the revives that have come out in the last couple of years, they also have some of their instructions in English now. The SD Gundams actually have a lot of their instructions in English as well. So if you get anything that says on the box 2000, maybe 17 or earlier, or later, I meant. Obviously, 2019, 2020 model kits are going to be a lot more friendly for localization.
Okay, yeah. So I was just curious. I was just
Oh yeah,
trying
yeah.
to derail the conversation.
So here's the other thing that I probably have to also make known. If a model kit was created in 2007, let's say, that model kit will be produced the exact same way as it was in 2007. That means the instruction booklet will be the same, the plastic
Oh,
will
okay.
be the same, everything like that. So even if it was reprinted today.
Okay, I mean, makes sense. I mean, don't fix what ain't broke.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's a cutting kind of thing. You think that they would kind of revamp some stuff, but for the most part, no. The only real difference now is that newer Bandai products that were created this year that are, we'll consider them to be higher end. They will have a blue Bandai logo. And that blue Bandai logo means it's a Bandai Spirits product, which essentially is a product for older people. So like collectors, that kind of thing.
Oh,
So
okay.
if you see
So
things
they
that are
kind
like,
of, in manga terms, they separate shonen from seinen.
yeah, pretty much. Yep. So you're gonna see things that are gonna have like a higher price point. So if like for example, the Double O like metal build series. Just for your information, I know some of our viewers already kind of know what the metal build series is, but these are token style figures that are around $200 to $300. So they're the size of, they're like, like 9 inches tall, 10 inches tall, made out of die cast. They're about 200, 300. Lots of people collect them. I considered collecting them for a while, and then I realized I'm not a figure guy, so I sold all of mine. But yeah, they will now have those blue Bandai spirits. Things that will not will be things like trading cards. So for example, the Dragon Ball Super trading card game won't have it. The Digimon trading card game won't have it. Uh, Gashapon stuff like that. Um, Even maybe some of the what do we call them, like video games. But I think that's specifically Bandai Namco, and so
Oh yeah, that's a whole other
so I
thing.
don't think they're really going to have that sticker on there. But
Yeah, Bandai Namco, I guess CyberConnect 2 is essentially them at this point.
right, yeah. But anyway, so that's pretty much it for Gunpla. Like if you want to get started somewhere, you can go down that list. That's all going to be down in the description, and hopefully you kind of enjoyed that
Yeah, that'll
little
be
bit of segment.
give me and many others just hours of just staring at YouTube. It's
Right.
something new for me. So when I run out of my run out of steam on my normal subscriptions for the week or something like that, it gives me a bunch of new stuff to look forward to. So
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're ever gonna run out,
yeah.
honestly.
I mean, yeah, especially since I'm so new to Gunpla, like I'll just always just
Yeah,
find a new YouTuber, a new model,
yeah, you're always gonna find something new. So here we're gonna kind of dive into some of the other stuff I think you're gonna be more interested in. So this is a new section of YouTube content that I affectionately call animation and lore. So
Okay.
kind of like Kakarot 197 kind of
Yeah, so
follows a little bit.
we're getting to more of the Anituber
Kind of,
territory.
just a little bit, right? So obviously the big one that you would know is Gundam Info. Gundam
Yes.
Info has a full-blown series, all the commercials he could ever hope to
Oh, yeah.
imagine being on there for Gundam-related stuff.
Do they still have F91 up? Because I've been meaning to rewatch it.
Possibly.
Yeah,
I actually don't really know.
Okay, because also while we're talking about Gundam Info, I think if I remember, I believe you told me this, is that when they do the full releases of series or movies, so on and so forth, they do that in conjunction with new model kit announcements.
Yeah, so obviously it's an advertising platform, so they were releasing, so kind of what we were just talking about, the metal builds, the Chigokins, they're releasing that as as kind of like a 10th anniversary release. So they also had F91 up for people to watch, so
Oh, okay.
hype up F91, the products. So actually, yes, they still have F91 up on Gundam Info. And let's just double check a couple of things here. I'm not going to share the page just to make things a lot easier for everybody, and it's not going to glitch out. But they have the Sangoku again, SD Gundam World stuff. They have stuff from the Yokohama
Nice.
statue that's up. They actually have a entry grade Let's Build RX-78-2 Gundam
Oh,
from a month ago. They have Build Divers Battle Logs. So actually, since 2014, I've watched all of my Gundam through Gundam Info. So everything
really?
from Build Fighters, Try, Divers, Re-Rise, Ironblade, Orphans,
Okay.
and I even went backwards and watched Unicorn, UC, and what do you call it? And Gundam Seed and
Okay.
Seed Destiny, the remastered versions. They also
Yeah,
have.
that's another thing too, is that we're entering this new exciting era where Gundam has official licensed streaming through Funimation right now.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
like they just on, I believe it was the day before Thanksgiving, they put up the original Mobile Suit Gundam, and they put up Unicorn, which has been on Netflix for a couple years now at this point, I believe. They also put up Seed HD Remaster and Seed Destiny. But
Yeah.
also this brings me to another question. Since we're getting into more of the territory that I'm more involved with, since I'm more in the Gundam media and lore, what is Gundam Info's affiliation with Sunrise? Is this like a Sunrise channel, or are they just kind of like getting like away with this?
Sotsu and Sunrise. So Sunrise is the
They're the studio. They
production. Yeah, it's the studio. It's a studio that creates Gundam, right? But they don't own Gundam.
Okay, so
So it would be like
who owns Gundam then? That's what I want to know.
I think it's actually called something like the Gundam Company, and I think it's more
No.
aligned, kind of like the Pokemon Company.
Okay, so they're at that point now.
But
Makes sense.
I think that who actually owns Gundam is Bandai. I think Bandai has the largest stake
Yeah,
in Gundam stuff.
that makes sense. That's what I figured, but you might have some insider knowledge I don't. So
Actually, let's look that up really quick, and let's see here. Yeah, so it's Bandai Namco Holdings. They technically own, so it's owned by Bandai Namco Holdings through Sotsu and Sunrise, both wholly owned subsidiaries. So yeah, they're all pretty much the same kind of conglomerate. So it's essentially Bandai. I kind of figured so because the way that Gundam usually works is you can't avoid spoilers when you're involved in the Gunpla community. But if you're isolated to just the Gundam community, you can avoid spoilers always because
okay, yeah, that's
whenever they release a new product, usually it's the like the enemy mobile suit or like something like the newest form of the mobile suit that will be released in an episode later on in the series.
Okay, yeah, because I was gonna ask that too. Is when a new series arises, what is the release trajectory for Gunpla like? So it sounds like the models come out ahead of time, and then you kind of go into the new program or what have you with knowledge that this thing will show up eventually.
Right. Yeah. So, for example, we can use Re-Rise as a very good example for their trajectory. I knew about the first three Gundam forms, so the forms that they released episode 1, 2, and 3, and in the opening, probably about 6 months ahead of time, right when they were kind of announcing like everything. So you already kind of know everything about it, and then they slowly release different product images, so you can be like, okay, I know it has a missile launcher here. I know like this is what the gimmick is supposed to be. He has this available to him, and you can kind of play like the Yu-Gi-Oh thing with TV shows where you're like, okay, I know that there's 50 cards in the deck. I know that Yugi has these 50 cards. This is probably
Yeah.
how he can play, but he's not choosing to play it that way. And then you kind of overanalyze things. What
Okay.
makes Bandai really interesting working with Sunrise is that sometimes they'll intentionally withhold information because they know about people looking at these product images in order to forecast what's going to happen in the series. So, for example, you're probably not going to watch this, so it's not really a spoiler. But in Re-Rise, the four main Gundams combine into a giant super robot.
Nice.
But that component, in order to combine all four, was integrated in the upgraded form of one of the Gundams. So when they announced the upgraded form of one of the Gundams, they specifically made sure that they only announced that Gundam.
Okay.
They didn't show any of the gimmicks that came with that Gundam. So they didn't show the extra accessories, they didn't show the transformation, they didn't show anything. They just had a
Oh, okay.
single photo of that Gundam, and they refused to release more information until the episode came out. And
Oh,
so
that's good.
oftentimes what they'll try to do is when the episode comes out that week, they want to time the market release or a market availability of that Gundam at the same time. So when the episode comes out that day, the model kit will already be on store shelves for children in Japan to pick up.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, as long as it just kind of seems like when they jump the gun on it, I feel like what would drum up, I don't know. I mean, I'm not, a sales analyst for Bandai, but I personally think what would drum up more hype is to see the mobile suit in action in the show and then be like, oh, like same day, I was like you mentioned that kids have access to the kits, but I feel like when they do it a little bit ahead of time, so you have a very large span of time of knowledge of this mobile suit before it appears on your TV screen, that's kind of a bummer. Just, I mean, if you're in like a lore centric show, like,
Right.
let's say, what was like I recently watched IBO for the first time. Oh, dang it, what was the mobile suit McGillis got at the end?
The veil?
Gundam, pardon me?
The veil?
Yeah, Ball, yeah. That was a cool thing about IBO is how they're all like named after like goetic demons. But like I'd be bummed like if I just started watching IBO like in Japan when it was first airing, and then there's a model kit. It was what 50 some odd episodes. He didn't get Ball or Bell until like what episode like 45 or something like that, like the 40s. Like being in episode like 18 and then seeing a kit for the Bowel mobile suit. Like
Yeah, so it wouldn't work
weeks and weeks
that
and
way.
weeks before it's launched.
No, so it wouldn't work that way. And usually it's only the hardcore fans that would kind of really, really know, what is coming out and like watching all the announcements and stuff like that. Basically me, like I would know this stuff ahead of time.
Yeah, I
The
mean
general
that's
public wouldn't know it until much later after they come out. So like for example, I'm a part of the community that we believe in like pre-orders. Like we know about the product a year ahead of time. So
Yeah,
we
it's
already
me with the
placed that
Chainsaw
product.
Man anime.
Right. Yeah. So for example, you wouldn't be in that situation most of the time, and nor would the general public. But I also believe that Bandai believes in familiarity. So the
Yeah,
longer that you see a product, the longer that you're exposed to that product, the more you're going to be inclined to wanting to purchase it. So
makes
instead of
sense.
waiting for the episode to be out for a couple of days, they would want to make sure that they're having these products available to the Japanese public, more so than not. And so we actually have a podcast, I think like episode 2 or something like that, where I do a very direct interview with Walter, because when I went to go in Japan and I hung out with him and Megumi for a while, his wife, I got to ask him some really interesting questions about um, how purchasing and capitalism works in Japan. Uh, Capitalism in Japan is on steroids.
Oh,
I believe that.
I mean
Uh,
they don't have a they don't have a military to go plunder the rest of the world's resources, but they're yeah, their work culture and so on is something else.
it's not that. It's actually they're buying and they're buying
Oh yeah,
ability. So they believe that well, not just the customer is king, but they believe that in order to entice the customer to continue to buy, they will need to constantly crank out new products.
oh
So
yeah,
that's the reason why you see so many different designs of Gundam come out month after month, year after year, week after week sometimes.
yeah. Because I've seen in my
Different versions.
experience, pardon me, with my experience at Gunpla, I see a lot of just. It seems like I mean, there's different grades and all that. I'm aware of that, but it seems like there's just they kind of just like put out the same, the same model, but with weird alterations, I guess. In my experience,
Right.
like it seems like they're kind of just like putting out the same product with a little bit of a little razzle dazzle here and there, but nothing that would make me personally want to buy the same kit twice. But I can understand why somebody would.
So this is a huge difference, and this is something you really should know about. The American market's different from the Japanese market.
Oh, absolutely.
Bandai has traditionally sold to the Japanese market. What I mean by that is that the American market likes shiny things.
Oh, yeah.
So, for example, shiny things like metallic versions sell better here. In Japan, clear sells better. In Asia, clear kits sell a lot better. In America, everybody likes the protagonist suit because Gundam is just hard to get here, and most of the time you just want to get the main character and that's it. Also, the American public is not as saturated with this type of media, so it's more commonplace for an American household to have a lightsaber in their home compared to a model kit or a statue. In the
Absolutely.
Japanese market, it's different because you see Gundams everywhere as just a normal thing that people would consume by from early ages up until like they're older.
Yeah, I
So
mean our
it's
cultural media differences, like what franchises we grew up with. There's gonna be a cultural divide.
well,
There's gonna be a coalescence, but
well,
it makes sense that in Japan, we have also Gundam and Star Wars came out at relatively the same time, respectively. So,
I guess I'm not talking about the show. I'm talking about in terms of the product.
oh yeah,
So because Star Wars is very common here, people don't really want to have Obi-Wan Kenobis or R2D2s. They want to get the very niche things. So for
oh
the
yeah,
same concept, in Japan, they don't care about the main suits. They don't care about the
oh yeah,
R78s. They
okay.
care
Yeah,
about the
that's
obscure Gundams that you would only see in novels or you would only
oh yeah,
see in Gundam Ace,
yeah. So
like the Mudrock or like the
everyone's got
Gundam
Crossbone,
types,
like
or not even the Crossbone. The Crossbone's too popular. You
oh,
need
is
to get
it?
stuff like you need to get stuff like
Yeah,
Phantom Gundam or the Ghost
uh,
Gundam or the Type
yeah,
Zero
yeah.
or
Even Crossbone here is, you know, like trying to talk to an American fan about Crossbone, it's like, oh, what the hell's it? Like,
yeah. So that's the differences. So like for example, like the Dozel Zabi ceremonial type Zaku 2 is a P Bandai kit because the Japanese market really likes that type of obscurity.
Oh,
But
okay.
when you
That's
look at it from an American lens, it's like, why would I ever buy this?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
because you usually want to get like a titular mobile suit. So most of the complaints that you see here in the United States are, why aren't we getting more God Gundam? Why aren't we getting more like more heavy arms and stuff? But they're all main suits. If you were
Okay.
to look at it from a Japanese standpoint, the Japanese standpoint would say stuff like, well, how come we're not getting like this variation of the gym or like the ground type gym obscure mobile suit from this part of the manga, or like for example, like an Afreet from the
Okay.
UC timeline,
Yeah.
but not the Afreet from Unicorn, the Afreet from the original Sega Genesis game, the Type
You know,
4.
it's
So
funny too. Right now you're kind of giving me something to work with. If you ever do a politics part two, it's funny. You're giving me a little bit more to run with too with the American buying habits of mobile suits. Um, about how Americans, they want like the hero kits. There's a lot to be said there about Western individualism.
right,
But
yeah, we mentioned that in another podcast. So
there's a very weird like bad Randian look at that you can take.
right.
That doesn't speak well, particularly about Americans as consumers, or how they view themselves through media. But
But it is a very good point to make, and I think we can definitely benefit from your input on another
yeah,
podcast.
I will put this out there. I will be the guy that will try to find the Marxist-Leninist lens on Gundam. I'm the guy for that.
Well, we need different takes. We need different takes. All right, so continuing on with the animation lore stuff, we kind of went through a whole big sidetrack. So aside from
Pardon
Gundam
me, sorry.
Pro, no, it's cool. That's what we had the podcast for. But there's three other places I think that are really interesting. Juck the Collector is great. So it's a JHHK, the Collector, and essentially what he does is he finds snippets of suits. So like for example, you want to know the gym, right? On Gundam Info, you can actually find a video where Bandai and Sunrise describe what the gym is.
Okay.
But sometimes you don't see all the clips of the gym or like the Ifrit or like the Zeta, C1 type. But Chuck the Collector will actually find the exact scenes of these suits, and he'll just do that. He'll snip all of them together, put into one video. So if you want to see all the scenes that the unicorn is in, he's got a video for that. You want to
Wow.
see if you want to see a video where the Blue Destiny gets featured, he's got a video for that. And so it's really interesting from an analysis point of view, from a consumer analyst point of view, is to compare how popular mobile suit design is and then see how much actual animated screen time that mobile suit has.
That's
And
that's really
it's
cool, actually. I really like that.
right, yeah. So I mean, I have to do that analysis, but he does the compiling pretty much for everybody by saying this is how much time this suit was animated. Sometimes it's 16 seconds,
Yeah.
sometimes it's 8 minutes. And it's interesting to see, how much is Bandai and Sunrise trying to push this design, but then looking at the product analysis and saying, well, even though they try to push this design, the American market really likes this design. The Japanese and the Asian market really likes this design. And it does say something very unique about our culture here and our culture in maybe in Germany, or the culture in Canada, or in the culture in the East.
That's cool.
Another really good YouTuber is Gamor. So Gamore, Gamore, is a YouTuber that strictly speaks in Japanese, but he
Okay.
subtitles, or she subtitles, I don't know who, all of their videos into English. And essentially what they do is lore breakdown. So not just lore, but also really interesting tidbits. So for example, you have never seen Gundam Seed Destiny. a lot of people hate Gundam Seed Destiny. I've watched Gundam Seed Destiny, and one of the most confusing things that I ever thought about the whole show was, why does the Strike Freedom have inner frame that is gold? I never really got that, because in the show there is a gold suit that mimics the Hyakushiki in terms of its beam coating, but its armor does something different, where if you shoot at it, it reflects, not like refracts the beam, and it reflects it back at an enemy mobile suit. And so it covers the outer armor.
That,
So
that
that
just
makes
sounds
sense.
broken.
It's pretty broken. And it's really cool. Honestly, it's like one of my favorite mobile suits designs, because imagine
Indeed.
the high new with or the new Gundam where it has
Okay.
spin funnels, and so it
Yeah.
can create barriers and stuff. So it has that plus that reflective armor.
That's
It's that's not even
so
one of the broken
nerfed.
suits.
It's,
I
I mean, I love New Gundam, but you just add that whole thing to it. That's overkill. It's too much.
So what they do with this video, or what he does is this video, is he explains not just the technological aspect to it. He doesn't explain the history of the suit, but he also goes into like some of the old manuals, the Japanese manuals that we can't really decipher. He also dives into like a lot of the old interviews, or even some of the cases. So for you and for everybody else who has not seen this video yet, he describes how the Strike Freedom Gundam was actually supposed to be called the Super Freedom Gundam. But during the time that it was actually supposed to be released, there was a scandal at a Japanese college called, there's a club called the Super Free Movement. And there was a rape scandal. So they didn't want that Gundam to have, when people were to type it in, they didn't want it to look exactly the same as the Super Free Movement. So they actually changed that Super to Strike. So that's why it's called the Strike Freedom Gundam. So another video that they have is on the new Gundam and the High New Gundam, where they explain the history of the artist who actually had to draw the High New Gundam in Belter Chica's Children. I always butcher that name.
Yeah.
The reason why there's a Belter Chica's Children version of the High New and the original rendition of the High New. And so they then created two different versions, so a blue version and the purple version. So while there's a lot of people who look at this blue version and say, oh, this is not quite what we wanted, he actually goes into the background information to say, this is actually the first official sanctioned version of the High New Gundam. He also goes into the history of the naming process. So they originally wanted to call it or Tomino wanted to call it the High S Gundam, because he wanted to say that this Gundam is higher than Char. But Tomino didn't know that Char was spelled with a C. So when they then tried to say, no, Mr. Yoshiyuki Tomino, Char starts with a C. They couldn't call the Gundam a High C Gundam. That's a drink.
Yeah, the soda.
So they decided to call it the High New Gundam. So there's actually he has really interesting information that as a reader of Gundam Wiki, I did not see nearly any of this information on there, because it's mostly like real world historical, facts about the development of these designs, not really fictional lore. So, but he also intertwines the two, and kind of his information kind of extends out to maybe 1980 up until present day. So he'll include stuff from some of the origins, stuff like that. He'll talk about the XS Gundam. So any of these modern day, or not really modern day, but any of these popular suits that you just really don't know about. So Crossbone Gundam, XS Gundam, Blue Destiny, Strike Freedom, God Gundam, uh, Gundam X or Double X, he'll
Yeah, sounds
explain
like
things.
this guy sounds like a real deal historian about Gundams, like inside and out. Like,
Yeah,
what
so
channel was
he'll
this again?
even so his name is Gamor. He's actually he's in the chat. So go ahead and check out the chat, and you can the hyperlinks I have in the chat, which I'm also including in the description, basically lead to the channel.
Okay. Yeah, I'm still also for those unaware, I'm very new to Zoom. I haven't had to do any Zoom meetings or anything for work. So, oh yeah, there's a whole lot of links.
Right. So the last
okay.
person in the animation lore kind of thing is kind of a loose animation thing. It's actually Operation Meteor.
Meteor.
Yeah, Meteor. So Sunny loves them because they do the Gundam Wing Abridged. So they do the show as much justice as Team 4 Star does with the Dragon Ball franchise. But
I have
just
a funny anecdote about
Gundam.
Team 4 Star. Let me get a moment.
Oh yeah, sure. What's up?
Oh, I'm sorry to derail it, but Anime Expo 2019. Oh yeah, this had to be Anime Expo last year because this is before Beastars aired.
Oh, okay.
But my friend Nate and I, shout out Nathan Navarro, other big Gundam fan. We're just walking around the artist alley, and earlier I never heard about Beastars until like somebody, I think the Crunchyroll booth, or not the Crunchyroll, it doesn't matter. Somebody handed me like it was a set of bookmarks with like the main cast of Beastars. I haven't watched Beastars yet because it seems not my thing, but everyone sings its praises. But it was like a set of like clear like bookmarks of like the main cast of Beastars. So like the only one I know is Legoshi, and then I think the rabbit's name is Haru.
Yeah.
And then there was like some other characters, and I had it in my hand. I didn't really pay it much mind, and then we walk up to the Team 4 Star booth where they're selling all their merch and stuff, and then I believe Scott is Kaiser Neko. Yeah, so Kaiser Neko, Scott. We're just kind of just like shooting, we're just like shooting the shit while talking to him, and then he's like, what's that in your hand? I was like, what? And is the Beastars bookmarks. And he's like, oh my god, where'd you get that? And I was like, oh, somebody handed me at a yonder booth. And then he's like, well, would you go get me one? And so, since I had never heard of Beastars, I had no idea what it was. I was like, you just have this. And he's like, oh my god, like I made his day. Just like the look of sheer excitement. I was like, you have it? Like I've never heard of this. And then naturally 6 months later is all over the Anosphere on the internet. But sorry, I derailed the whole conversation. But you mentioned Team 4 Star, and that's always just like a funny story I have about
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of the same thing with me. I mean, not exactly the same thing, but whenever I talk about Team 4 Star or say Lil Karibo, I always remember the moment that I actually saw Lil Karibo, and he got pretty excited by seeing like Gundam stuff like on my name tag and things like that, and I was like,
oh, that's cool. Also, while we're talking Gundam, very big Gundam enthusiast passed away in Japan recently. His name, I believe, is Mighty. The inspiration for the Final Fantasy 14 Data Light show. Big old, he's a huge figure in the Final Fantasy 14 community, but he was also a big Gundam nut. Him and Final Fantasy 14's director Yoshi P bonded over Gundam, and apparently he told Yoshi that Yoshi P that he would give him a new Gundam model that he never got. Unfortunately, this man passed away on the 6th, I believe it was.
what was his name?
I believe it was Mighty. If you don't mind me look at my phone real quick, make sure I've got his name correct. Yeah, Mighty, Maidy. Yeah, he was the inspiration behind the Final Fantasy 14 Dad of Light show, if I'm not mistaken. It's about a strange son and father bonding over Final Fantasy 14, but like the dad doesn't know that it's his son that's playing with him and stuff. but yeah, he was a huge Gundam enthusiast. Him and the director of Final Fantasy 14 both bonded over models, and yeah, unfortunately, this man has passed away recently.
That's unfortunate. Yeah, I'm looking at it 18 hours ago. Mighty's hospitalization. Wow.
And Yoshi P, for those who want to read it, you can find it online. He put out a very, very touching memoriam to him. So rest in peace to a tremendous Gundam enthusiast and big deal in the Final Fantasy 14 community, which is something I've gotten into recently. But I do, before I ever really started playing 14, I remember you can watch a show on Netflix. I believe it's still up. The original Japanese program. There's also a movie, if I'm not mistaken, with a different cast. But yeah, as we're talking about online Gundam stuff, I just, rest in peace to this guy that touched a lot of people from the sound of it. So.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's good to know. Thanks for spreading the awareness, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, sorry to bring on a downer moment.
No. That's what this podcast is for. Just friends talking about stuff. But yeah, that's all I got for animation and lore, stuff like that. So I'm probably gonna rewatch Gundam Wing Abridged after we get off of this podcast. But let's move on to something else. Gundam News. So Gundam News is kind of what our channel does a little bit, but there's also other channels that kind of do something similar. So Mecha Gaigotsu does Gunpla News. Zachrelius does Gunpla News. But there are other people who do it as well. Gunpla Network, and specifically Awesome Toys TV is a channel that I watch a lot. They are based out of Malaysia, I think, and so they usually get their news a little bit earlier than the people in the States do. This is a YouTube specific thing, so I know there's other things like Gunjap and like a bunch of other Facebook posts and obviously the official Bandai website and things like that. But for YouTube specific, Awesome Toys TV I think is a really good channel to check out. And then the tail end is so just a quick shout out to these two for just Gundam fans. So I think this is like the coolest thing. So your average consumer is this dude, I think like on the East Coast. I think he's like in Georgia. And he does tech reviews. He does tech reviews and he's a huge Gundam fan. So in his cave, he has things that, he has metal builds in there. He has those high resolution models. He's got Jigokins. He's got the 1/12 busts.
God.
He's got posters from the stuff, like those the Epion Death Scythe Hell posters that you normally see. They're like super aesthetic. They look like all feathery and stuff like that. He's got those there. You can tell he doesn't talk about Gundam all the time or at all. But when he's showcasing his room, you see it. You see it everywhere. And so I have mad respect for this guy just because he's a Gundam fan. And then Rue's Piano is this girl who does piano covers, and she does some Gundam Wing stuff and some Gundam Seed music. So, you can go and check her stuff out. Most people, I'm sure, probably either know Rue's Piano or Pan's Piano because of their thumbnails. They've also got really great personality. So
now I need to investigate what you mean by that.
And then there's the mobile game that my wife Sunny and I play pretty religiously. So
I should have it downloaded by now.
Okay, yeah, go ahead and play with us, man. Like at some point we'll learn how to stream doing this, and then once you're part of our guild, because they just announced that literally today, then we can start doing raid battles together. So that would be super cool. But I specifically look at Xant, so Xant. Oh, boom, there you go. Aaron's got it. Actually, Sunny was playing it just a little while ago. So, and then
Barbados
time. I've also been watching.
This Barbados with the typical.
Yeah, it's the fourth form Barbados. It's good stuff, man. But yeah, so that's what my YouTube essentially looks like. There's also other places like the Korean YouTube channel, My Story, is also great because they talk about people who make Gundam out of popsicle sticks, people who make giant Gundams out of just the runners. So if you don't know what the runner is, Aaron, it's so you have the plastic, right? That you have to
Yeah.
pop them out of. So they cut those runners and they turn them into Gundam statues, like giant.
That's insane.
Yeah, so
That's
they're amazing. They've
that's
done
cool.
other stuff where like instead of painting with like toxic paints,
Yeah.
like acrylics and enamels, there's this guy that paints with his fingers with like just chalk. And so he will do that because he has a kid in his apartment and he doesn't want to mess things up with
Oh.
that. They also interviewed this other guy who just does like the gold leaf stuff, or oh no, that's what it is, electroplating. He electroplates the Gunpla plastic so that they look super metallic. They essentially are
Cool.
metallic. Yeah. So, and these are all Korean builders. These are all Asian builders. They're insane over there. They do so much cool stuff.
That's one of the coolest things about the Gundam community too, is that people's passion for it, like just it, manifests in so many wild ways you would never even think of. Like
Right.
there's probably some guy making a functional mobile suit out of like sleds or something like that. Like there's like Gundam fans are so passionate. They range from like just me, where just like I really like the anime and I really like the lore and I like just stick to the media as much as I can. But then you got the guy that just has the time or the money or neither, and he's just that passionate, and you can just make functional, mobile suits out of whatever you got around you. You got, like you said, this guy just makes metallic looking, paints out of just not metallic paints. Like,
yeah, no, it's amazing, and that's just a testament that as long as you're passionate in something, you can achieve just about anything. So
yeah, it's just, you just
don't
gotta be.
sell yourself short. Anybody who's
Yeah,
watching this
also
video.
you just gotta be the right amount of crazy.
You just have to be the right amount of
Yeah,
insane,
the Gundam
right?
community needs that. You need that, just that something's.
Yeah, exactly. But we're all in this together, so you got a friend in all of us. If you want, please comment down below if you want to join in the conversation. We also have the San Diego Gunpla Facebook group that most of us are a part of. So if you want to continue the conversation over there, please go ahead and join us. There'll be a link also down in the description. But if you have the time, for the YouTube algorithm, please like and subscribe to the video, comment with any of the stuff that you have down there. And that's pretty much all I have for today, unless Aaron, you got something else.
Well, I mean, as far as Gundam YouTubers, I mean, your guys' channel and Gundam Info is all I got. I mean, I could recommend the intersection of anime and gaming. I could recommend some channels that way, but I mean, this is a Gundam specific podcast, so I suppose this will be my official debut. I'm sorry that I'm not the most versed in the Gundam YouTube community.
It's all right, man.
I will do better. I will get better, I promise.
You will.
I'm just, it's fun to be here. We've been friends for damn near 30 years. So that's a whole other wild thing we picked up on previously, but I was hoping to have a more like wide-ranging debut with the others, but they'll join.
It's all right. They'll come on soon enough. But with that, thank you everybody who were able to tune in and watch us this week, and we'll see everybody next time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.